Penguin Random House Audio presents Taking Midway, Naval Warfare, Secret Codes, and the Battle That Turned the Tide of World War II by Martin Dugard. Read for you by Samuel Roukin. To Colleen. Prologue. The Pacific claimed her lifetimes ago. She rests upright, 3 miles beneath the waves, thick steel hull cased in mud. Complete darkness, freezing water. Marine life, but too deep for fish. Sailors and officers already dead as she goes under, ride her to the bottom that horrible morning. Their ghosts keep her company. Once an aircraft carrier with the hull number CV5, she is now classified a war grave. C is for cruiser, because a carrier's original role was that of an advance scout, like a battle cruiser in World War I. Nobody is saying for certain why the US Navy added a V. Some claim the letter stands for the French word voler, to fly. Proof is hard to come by. No one questions whether or not this is true. The service is known to possess an unpredictable fondness for romance. A crane operator at Newport News brings her into the world 8 years before a torpedo tears the hole in her side that takes her out. He lowers a steel plate hewn from the coal mines of Appalachia, then forged in a blast furnace belching the heat of the sun. He guides that foundational chunk of metal down from the blue Virginia sky carefully until it nestles against a straight line of keel blocks almost as long as 2 football fields. No ceremony. No name. Yard number 359. Just another ship, they say as she takes shape. Though the welders and fitters know it isn't true. This is a new class of vessel designed to wage a different style of war. She's not the first of her kind. That happens on November 13, 1921, when Japan christens a ship specifically configured to launch airplanes. Hosho is followed by Britain's Hermes 1 year later. Right about then, the United States adds a flat upper flight deck to a collier and makes Langley CV-1. The era of conversions is over. 13 years later, as she is laid down on May 21, 1934, CV-5 is a purpose-built aircraft carrier. Days of construction in Newport News become months, then a year, and another, time marked by the punctual howl of the shipyard whistle. More steel. A cradle of ribs rises from those bottom pieces to make her tall and wide. Decks, boilers, pipes, wires, galleys, mess. Wardrooms, racks by the thousands, showers, heads. Finally, a superstructure island towering over a flight deck covered in 2 acres of split and sanded Douglas fir. A name replaces the yard number, borrowed from a time when hulls were wood and wind brought power. She is USS Yorktown, the 3rd United States ship in history so named. First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt smashes a bottle of champagne across her bow on christening day. An impressive sight, she calls the moment the towering steel vessel slides gracefully into the Atlantic. USS Yorktown soon has sisters, also built at Newport News. They are Enterprise and Hornet, one of whom now also rests on the bottom of the Pacific. The 3 revolutionary carriers fight side by side just once. Warm first week in June. Patch of smooth blue ocean smack dab in the middle between San Francisco and Tokyo. 1942. Until this day, battleships define naval warfare. An epic duel between Yorktown-class siblings and aircraft carriers of the Imperial Japanese Navy ends that school of thinking. Yorktown's watery grave stands along exalted names like Thermopylae, Gettysburg, Waterloo. pivotal battles in locations insignificant before the fighting makes them sacred. Picture two small islands, a giant circle of coral, crisscrossed by runways and inhabited by thousands of seabirds, that take their name from that location in the very center of the Pacific. Midway. Japan was supreme, and we everywhere were weak and naked. Winston Churchill. Episode 1. Prince of Wales. Tom Thumb. December 8, 1941. Singapore Harbour. 1710 hours. Admiral Sir Tom Phillips sails into dark waters. A man not fond of taking advice. Steel deck beneath polished white shoes. Whites, epaulets, 5'2". A small box on the bridge to stand on, so he can see the view. The Battle of Midway is 6 months away. Events leading up to this clash began decades ago. A mélange of poor treaties, technological advances, empire building, and, from the Japanese perspective, racism. One by one, dominoes fell. All that is missing as HMS Prince of Wales parts the waters on this scorching December night are the date and location of the fight. And one last tile to topple. Unfortunately for the sailors and officers of Wales, that is her. The past 17 hours have shattered the Pacific balance of power. Shocking Japanese surprise attacks from one side of the ocean to the other, thousands of good men dead. The Japs, as the British openly refer to their enemy, need a reminder of who's boss before this thing gets out of control. Admiral Tom Phillips will do the reminding. A full head shorter than any man on his staff, Tom Thumb is the newly promoted Commander-in-Chief, China Station. 53, 126 pounds, one of the youngest admirals in the Royal Navy. His warships defend China, Singapore, Malaya, Hong Kong, and the western rim of the Pacific Ocean stretching all the way south to Australia. As of 1 week ago, Singapore is the new home port for this Force Z. Wales is Phillips's flagship. No less than British Prime Minister Winston Churchill ordered her to sail for Singapore, considering the new battleship Britain's greatest deterrent weapon. Red Cross of St. George on a white background flying from its mainmast, denoting the Admiral is on board. Captain John Leach, the much-loved skipper of Wales, shares the bridge. Leach gives the orders for his sailors and maintains discipline on his vessel, even as Phillips directs all of Z. The order from London came 13 hours ago. Commence hostilities with Japan at once. When that directive arrives, it is Captain Leach who immediately speaks on the ship's loudspeakers, informing his sailors Britain is at war. Preparations for battle begin immediately. Today brought intense, equatorial heat to Singapore and the emergency decision to get underway. Shore leaves cancelled. British sailors stripped to the waist, sweating out last night's beer, lining up on deck and gangways, loading ammunition for the sudden fight to come. Just after noon, senior naval officers listen for 30 minutes as Phillips lays out battle plans around Wales's polished conference table in his admiral's quarters. There is history to this mahogany slab. Winston Churchill sat here 4 months ago, sharing dinner with United States President Franklin Roosevelt. Brandy, tobacco, alliance. That was diplomacy. This is war. The Admiral does not open the floor to discussion. The Royal Air Force, whose aircraft offer Force Z protection from the skies, is not invited. Phillips believes battleships have little to fear from aerial attack. He does so at the risk of his own life and those of thousands of his men, even as intelligence reports tell of Japanese bombers and fighters stationed within range at nearby Saigon.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?